So it's not very often that I do this, but you know when you get a comment and that's just, oh, it's just so irresistible. It's calling to you, oh, just, So, here we go. So Jamie Bates has been mentioning me recently, and he has some points about my review of the Runes of Skaro set, and you know what? Let's actually respond to them. So, in my review, he claims the same head sculpt is used on both Movellans. I mean, to be honest, if it is different, I cannot tell. Like, looking at them, seriously, side by side, I mean, if there is a difference, then it was a waste of money making them different because they look basically identical to each other. So, yeah, if they are identical, then yeah, I'm not saying that's a problem. I'm just saying that, they do look identical. So, if there was one that was different, then it wasn't made very apparent. Anyway, second point. Unpainted skin looks really bad. Opinion, but still, it literally doesn't. I mean, you just said opinion, but then you said it literally doesn't, so you're implying that my opinion is wrong, even though it's an opinion. And yeah, it does look bad. It doesn't look too bad on the Movellans, but on other figures, for example, the Sixth Doctor and TARDIS Sex that came out last year, yeah, Colin Baker kind of looked a bit dead, essentially. Like, he wasn't looking quite well in that, because the problem is that it just doesn't bring out the life in it, because you can only dye, the plastic a certain amount of colours on that, and by just spraying it up afterwards, a lot of the time it gives it this bit of a sheen and that just makes it really look very cheap and plasticky. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But the reason most companies do it, well, the reason all companies essentially do stuff like that, it's called cost cutting. It's a cost cutting measure. That's what it is. Save money on paint, there you go. Anyway, next point. The pictures of the set leak showed a different dark with the raised neck checks, and they didn't. To be honest, I'd agree with that. I don't know. I didn't know at the time, and that because it was really hard to tell in the initial picture that was leaked, because it was so blurry and the angle it did look different. Although I have seen some pictures of people who have gotten sample copies, and there's still a debate on whether the original or the newer slacks were used in some of the earlier ones. It's a bit hard to tell, and that without some of them doing a side by side, but regardless, I don't know why that's wrong. 99% of people are buying it for the Dalek alone. Yeah, I stand by that. I stand by that. I mean, okay, look at Raven Jones, for example. Or Zero, Doctor Zero, Zero, I think that's his channel name, if I remember rightly. He bought £960, I think it was, worth of sets. I can't remember how many it was. But he bought them for the Dalek, not the Movellans. Like, he literally said, I don't know what I'm going to do with all these Movellans. So, yeah. Now, it's this next point that is the reason for doing, really, the whole video. It's overpriced. The Dalek is 100% reused in terms of reused parts. And then he puts in brackets, it isn't. Well, in terms of the Dalek, yes, it is. The parts, may have all been from different Dalek figures and that in the past, but everything about the Dalek, reused. The bombs, reused and that. They may be slightly painted differently. The paint might be slightly better in that on it, but the bombs themselves, they're reused and that. The molds and that are reused from the original. The eye, that's reused from the previous Destiny set. Everything else about the Dalek, well, it's basically your bog standards, classic Dalek sculpt and everything else with it. So, yeah. And in terms of overpriced, if that's what you were referring to, I mean, it is overpriced. It just is. Like, there's no way on earth you can say that isn't overpriced. And I think people have the wrong idea when it comes to this. Like, people think, oh, it's overpriced, but he bought 3 of them anyway. That must mean it isn't overpriced. He doesn't think that. Well, the thing is, though, if you remember in my review, I said I would have bought more if the price was cheaper. Just because something is overpriced doesn't mean I don't like it. There are many things you can get that are overpriced. For example, I think smartphones are overpriced these days, and that the high-end ones are what you're getting. They don't include a charger in the box or anything like that. Are they overpriced? Yes. But does that mean I think they're shit? No. Like, something can be overpriced, you can still like it, but you can still say, look, this is overpriced, and that for what you're getting. Now, in terms of the Silurian set using more parts, don't think that's true, right? I don't know, it's pretty comparable. I mean, for example, the Movellans use the Leela body and tweaked the boots on the Leela figure to have the sort of quilted type pattern on there. So, yeah, the arms could be new, or they could be tweaked arms from a different figure. I don't know. To be honest, I can't be asked to do the researching to that now. But the hands are reused. And basically, most of the body in that is reused. Now, could this have been released in B&M? I think it's one of those figures that's kind of teetering on whether it could be. I think, if it was in B&M, it would basically take up 90% of the budget of the wave. So I think that would be why it wasn't released in B&M. But still, for the money, 40 quid, like, nah, you're asking a bit too much. And that there. If it was 30 or even 35, I would say, it's more expensive than the B&M set, but, I don't feel like I'm getting ripped off. Now, he hasn't put it here, but also, for those who don't know, the recommended retail price that character gives to B&M for example, the TARDIS set from last year was 40 quid. Same with the Dalek sets. The recommended price was about £40, if I remember rightly off the top of my head. But B&M don't do that. B&M subsidise the cost as much as possible. And yes, they won't make as much profit on it, but they'll sell a lot more, a lot quicker than that as well. They won't have shelf warmers, as I call them. Now, sometimes they still do. This is the first time, in years that we have ever seen Dalek sets actually, for one, still sitting on the shelves in some B&Ms, but also being on there long enough to go on sale. And I do recommend picking some up. So, yeah. But regardless on that, I mean, he can see what he likes and that about me, but, I want to see my response to it. So, yeah, it was that main response. Overpriced and the Dalek is 100% reused. And it apparently isn't. I mean, it is. It literally is reused parts. Like, all the Daleks, for the most part, are 90% reused parts anyway. A lot of the time, they just have one new thing. But with the Bomber Dalek, it literally was reused parts. Now, those parts had never come together in that form before, but they're still reused parts at the end of the day. But regardless, I think we've had a bit of a laugh now. I'm going to go and off and stuff thingy-bobby. So, yeah, there we go.